Okay, oh, one more. I forgot something. Yes, right. God and suffering. Many people they say, well, if God truly exists, why does He allow so much suffering? People get killed, and hunger and sickness and that and this and then, okay, and so on. So I don't believe God because if He would really be there, then He would not allow suffering because He's almighty and all powerful and blah 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 blah. Okay. Well, good points, good arguments, but your thinking is wrong again. If you look at the Bible, if you read the Bible, and then things occur. You see things happening in the history of in the history actually of creation, of God's creation. Well, what happened? If you read the Genesis account, then you see God created the heavens, the earth, the time, the earthly plants, the fishes, the animals, and finally also humans. God saw that everything was good. Everything was good when He created everything. He also created the angels. Yeah? Everything is good. Everything was good when God stopped His creating actions. And it is in Genesis 1 or something like that. Genesis 1, Genesis 2. There He stopped. On day 7. And when God on the 7th day had finished all His work that He's done, He took a rest. Well, God doesn't need rest, of course, but He put an example for us to say, okay, 6-day work, 1 day rest. Yeah? God has made an example. He could have done everything He could have done in 1 second. But then He wanted, there was a message in those 7 days, but that's another story. Okay, one of the creations of God were the angels. Yeah? And we can see that in Job, and we read Job to that a little. Job 1. We see that on Job 1 verse 6. On a certain day now, the sons of God came to stand before God. And amongst them, also the Satan came. Okay, so these are referred to as the angels are referred to as the sons of God, and God created them. The angels and all what came out of God, just as a child comes out of a woman. It's a child, and it, of course, the seed of a man and the seed of a woman, and so it comes out of us. So it's a child. So everything that comes out of God is His child, including angels, including man, including etc., etc., etc. It's all God's creation. It belongs to Him. Okay. What happened? One of those angels, Lucifer, was very beautiful, wise and strong, etc., etc., etc. angel. He was, yeah. And but he said, "Wow, man, look at me! I'm so good, man! Whoa!" Yeah. He became proud, and he said, "Well, God told me I have to serve these humans, but they're weak, and they're so weak that I have to serve them, and they cannot do it themselves. So I want to be served. I'm just as good. I'm almost as good as God. So I want to be served as God." So Lucifer became proud and he said, "Well, I want to be God." So he actually rebelled against God. And God had to say, "Hey, man, what are you doing, man? I'm God. I made you," in my own words. Yeah, okay. I don't think God spoke in this way, but okay. In my own words, God said, "Man, what are you doing? I created you. You cannot be God because I am God. I made you. You didn't make me. I made you. So sorry, pal. This is not going to happen. I'm going to kick you out of heaven because..." But because of this rebellion. But I hope you realize that God had to punish one of his own creations, one of his own sons. Well, what do you think that happened? What that meant to God and in God's heart, in God's feelings? God had to send away one of his own sons. Yeah? That God suffered because of that. And not only that, not only Lucifer was kicked out of heaven. Yeah? One out of 3 angels followed Lucifer in that. And there are I don't know how many angels. There are loads of angels, maybe million, maybe billion angels. I don't know how many there are. I really don't know. But 1/3 of them, 1 out of 3 angels, sons of God, left God. God was in total agony and pain in knowing that 1/3 of his creations, 1/3 of his sons, his creations, his sons, who he loved those angels. He had to kick them out of heaven because they became rebellious to him. They didn't listen to him anymore. So the first suffering, the very first suffering took place in heaven with God. God suffers the most at this present day. Because he's in pain over the loss of his sons. As we see, as the Bible mentioned, the sons of God came to him. They came to their father. And one of those sons used to be Satan, Lucifer, who is now Satan. So what we see is that the first agony and pain, the heart pain, is with God. The first suffering is with God. Okay, what happened next? Lucifer, angry on God, could not get back on God. He couldn't take God. He couldn't hurt God directly, unless he took away angels, and now he turned. Lucifer was still angry, and he still is today. Still angry on God, he turned against God. And what did he do? Well, Jesus is a picture, a 3D blueprint for how we were going to look like and to be, etc., etc., etc. So God, we cannot see. God is spirit. We cannot perceive spirit in a direct way by seeing it. I cannot see God as I see this Bible, or this thing, or this chair, etc., etc. So God is spirit. We cannot perceive it with our eyes. So God needed to, in order to communicate with us, to make something or a person that we could relate to. Well, God made actually something like what we would call a picture of himself, a photograph of himself, or a statue of himself. What we do mostly is with clay, making a statue which resembles us. And God did something like the same, and that was Jesus. And based on the blueprint that Jesus is, we were made. So God made Jesus as his son. It came also directly out of God. And God made actually humans, or Jesus actually made humans. God and Jesus are one and the same person. Lucifer. So the point what I wanted to make is we resemble God via Jesus. Yeah? Okay, we are lookalikes. And that's why we are family, actually. We come out of God. We actually have the God's DNA in ourselves, so to say. And so we resemble God. But Lucifer, seeing us, is reminded of that. He said, man, I see human. I hate God, but I cannot do anything to God. So I hate this human because he looks like him. So what Lucifer did is turning his arrows, his evil arrows, on Adam and Eve. because they were created by God. And and he succeeded. Unfortunately, he succeeded. So again, the human race, to whom God gave all his reign over earth, was took over by Satan. Which made God angry, because he said, they are mine. Sorry, they're mine. Stay off of them. So God had a plan to conquer them back. Out of free will, by the way. You have a free will to go back to Jesus, or to God via Jesus. God and Jesus are one and the same. Okay. But that means that God also lost his children, the humans, to Satan. And so that pain also is again in God's heart again. God is crying over you, man. God is crying over you. So God is the one that suffered first. And God said, if you eat from the tree, you will die. And because what humans did actually via Adam and Eve is make God suffer in the first place. We as humans made God suffer first by saying no to God. You make God suffer first by saying no to God. So, as a result of that, you will suffer because you listen to Satan. And Satan wants to kill you. That's where the suffering comes from. God doesn't want you to suffer. God wants you to be happily ever after in heaven. But because humankind, including you, if you don't believe in God, Jesus Christ, then you make God suffer. So yes, that's where suffering comes from. And God is not afraid of physical, bodily suffering. This is not the end. This physical being on earth, this physical life on earth is not the end. Yes, you will suffer till the day you die. That's true. In some way. The one more than the other one. But this is not the end, folks. The end will be if you keep on remaining saying no to God. Then you will suffer eternally by your own choice. Not God offers you a way out of it. Since Adam and Eve, you are under the guidance of Lucifer and not under the guidance of God. Of course, God has the last word about everything, as far as how Lucifer can go. That's what you clearly see in the story of Job. Lucifer, Satan, he challenged God. Oh, let me hurt him. Then let's see how loyal he will remain to you. God said, okay, so far you can go, and the rest not. So God limits how far the suffering is. But the suffering is not coming from God. The suffering is coming from Lucifer, from Satan. But God is not afraid of suffering. God came to us in Jesus and had him crucified. God took our suffering in Jesus, and because of the sin that we are doing, and so God is not afraid of that physical suffering. And God is much bigger than the pain that you suffer. God is much bigger than the problems that you suffer. So is there suffering? Yes, there is suffering. First, by your own choice. If you keep saying no to God, then the suffering will increase, folks. If you want to stop the suffering, then turn to God. Simple as that. But even then, the suffering may still be there in this world. The suffering will stop only if you physically die and have your belief in Jesus Christ, because then you go to heaven. If you don't go to Jesus Christ, the suffering will remain in eternity in hell. And that's not what you want. So it's up to you, the choice. Here on earth, there is a part joy and there's a part suffering. Here you can say, well, I don't want the suffering, I want the joy part. If you want the joy part, then choose for Jesus. If you want the suffering part and in eternity, then choose for Satan. Then don't believe in Jesus. Here on earth, there is some people say, well, there could be a gray area. Well, here on earth, the gray areas. Here on earth, you have the luck to experience good things and bad things. You may choose whichever you like, yeah? If you want the good stuff forever in eternity, then go to Jesus. If you don't want that, then stay away from Jesus. And then you go to hell. But by your own choice. Jesus says, I invite you, you're welcome in my heaven without suffering. Okay, but God is not afraid of the pain that we have here. Yeah? Because he took the first suffering himself. He took the second suffering himself with Adam and Eve. And he took the third suffering himself by coming to earth and let himself be crucified. Being martyred and crucified. Yeah? So God is not afraid of physical suffering. It's only a body that is suffering. Yeah? And this body will die anyhow, one way or the other. Yeah? What is happening to your spirit? That is important. Where is your spirit going? Is it going to enjoy eternal happiness in heaven, or is your spirit going to hell? Your body will suffer. Yes, okay, that's temporarily. Yeah, for maybe at the most 120, 130 years. Yeah, maximum. And after that, where is your spirit going? Is your spirit going to heaven, where there is no suffering at all? No hunger, no punishment, no evil, no pain, no sickness, nothing of that. Or do you want to suffer for in eternity in hell? It's up to you. And yes, there will be suffering in this world. Yeah, God is not afraid of suffering. No, He's not. But because then you know what is good and evil. Yeah, the human race, Adam, chose to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Humankind has chosen to eat from the tree of good and bad. Well, then good and bad you will know. Yeah? And that's where the suffering comes from. Because the good and the bad you will know. Because humankind chose to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and bad. Did you do that too? Well, maybe not directly, but you are still doing it today. Yeah? Adam and Eve, you were in Adam and Eve 6,000 years ago, approx. Yeah? You were in, let me explain that. You, as a person, were present in your mom and in your dad before you were born. Yeah? In their flesh, you were present already. Yeah? And when they got together, you came out. The same goes for your parents. Your parents were present in their parents. And so on and so on and so on. So on. That goes all the way back to Adam and Eve. You were present, I was present already in Adam's and Eve's flesh. So he sinned, that makes you a sinner too. Because you already were there in Adam and Eve. So yes, he sinned, so that sin was passed on via all those people to us. Simple as that. They suffered, we suffered. Simple as that. But it doesn't stop after you die. That's the whole story. Okay, so God and suffering, yes, God is not afraid of this bodily suffering. Yeah? The question is only whether you go without suffering in heaven or with suffering eternally in hell. That's the choice where you have to where you're standing for. So no, sickness, etc., is because of we sinned. Simple as that. Is it nice? No, but now you know good and bad. That's what we chose for, as human beings. Adam and Eve chose for, and you can every day you have to make decisions whether to do good, whether to do bad, whether to do good, whether to do bad. Drive through red light or not to drive through red light. Be honest with your tax incomes to the taxes or not to be honest. Getting angry in an unjust way to your colleague or not to become angry. To punish your child on an unjust way, etc. or not to. These are all choices in good and bad, and good and bad, and good and bad, and good and bad. Every day you can eat from the tree of knowledge of good and bad. And if you choose good, then you will have the profit of it. If you choose bad, you will have the suffering of it. So you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and bad too. Maybe not in the visible fruit, yeah, but in your choices. Okay, this is all I wanted to say about it. Bye-bye.